Take a long, hard look at this image. This isn't a scene from a dystopian film. It's not a forgotten corner of a developing nation. This is the concrete reality unfolding on the sidewalks of the wealthiest country on earth.
So they come out Mondays and Fridays and help with wound care and trying to help everybody get off the streets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's true, if you change places and things, you can't change people ever, but you can change yourself and things and places.
In cities that boast skylines of glass and steel, a different kind of architecture is taking over. Tents made of tarps, shelters built from cardboard, and bodies frozen in a chemical slumber. These are our fellow Americans, caught in the grip of a substance cheaper than a gallon of milk, but powerful enough to erase a soul. So, how did we get here? How does a society with unimaginable resources find itself presiding over a public health catastrophe of this scale? What happens when the systems designed to protect us become the very architecture of a trap? And most profoundly, if your world started to unravel, what would it take for you to end up here? Welcome to Bear City 24i. We're not here to just show you the crisis. We're here to dissect the machinery that built it. The fentanyl factor, the game changer. To understand the modern crisis of homelessness in the United States, you first have to understand the chemical that irrevocably changed the rules. This isn't just another chapter in the long story of addiction. This is a complete rewriting of the book. We're talking about fentanyl, a synthetic opioid, manufactured in labs with astonishing efficiency, making it incredibly cheap and endlessly available. To put its power into perspective, it is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. An amount small enough to fit on the tip of a pencil is a lethal dose. But the nightmare doesn't stop there. In a cruel twist of street chemistry, fentanyl is now almost always mixed with a substance called xylazine, known on the street as Tranq. This is a veterinary sedative, an animal tranquilizer never intended for human consumption. Because it's not an opioid, the life-saving drug naloxone has no effect on it. It plunges users into a state of unconsciousness that can last for hours, leaving them vulnerable on the pavement. Even more horrifically, it restricts blood flow, causing gruesome, rotting wounds that can lead to amputation. This combination creates a biochemical prison unlike any other. It's not just addictive, it's annihilating. It attacks the body, cripples the mind, and extinguishes the will to fight. What happens to a person's hope when their own body becomes a source of constant, unimaginable pain? This isn't a drug problem anymore. This is a humanitarian crisis, engineered in a lab and perfected on our streets. The cracks in the foundation, the pathways to the street. Fentanyl may be the accelerant, but the fire was set long ago. The people we see on the streets didn't just appear out of nowhere. They are the products of a slow-motion demolition of the American social contract. For generations, there was a promise: work hard, and you'll have a stable life. But what happens when that promise becomes a myth? First, the foundation of housing cracked. The relentless math of modern economics has become impossible for millions. In nearly every major city, rental prices have skyrocketed. While wages have stagnated, a single missed paycheck, a sudden rent hike, an unexpected car repair, that's all it takes now. The buffer that once existed between having a home and having nothing has been eroded to a razor's edge. Do you remember a time when a single, steady job was enough to secure a roof over your head? For a growing number of Americans, that time is a distant memory. Then, the foundation of work crumbled. The stable, lifelong manufacturing jobs that built the middle class have been replaced by a gig economy, a world of temporary contracts, part-time hours, and zero benefits. There is no safety net, no health insurance, no retirement plan. It's a system that offers flexibility but demands a brutal price, perpetual instability, and finally, the most devastating crack of all, the American healthcare system. In this country, getting sick is a financial catastrophe. A single medical emergency can lead to a lifetime of debt, creating a direct pipeline from the hospital bed to the sidewalk. This isn't a storm that appeared overnight. These are the deep, structural cracks that have been widening for decades, waiting for a catalyst like fentanyl to send the entire structure crashing down. The illusion of shelter, the revolving door. So, when someone's world collapses, what is the last line of defense? The shelter system? In theory, it's a place of refuge, In reality, for many, it's just another part of the problem. The most immediate issue is simple capacity. There are far more people in need of a bed than there are beds available. This forces cities into a constant state of crisis management, especially during extreme weather, leaving thousands with no option but the street. But even for those who can get inside, the shelter is often a place of impossible choices. Strict rules can feel more like a punishment than a help. Want to keep your pet? The only source of companionship and comfort you have left. You can't. Want to stay with your partner? You'll likely be separated into different dorms. Have a nighttime job? You'll be locked out by the strict curfew. These aren't just rules. They are assaults on a person's last remaining fragments of identity and normalcy. Is a place truly a home if it forces you to abandon the last living thing that loves you? Faced with these conditions, many make the rational choice to take their chances on the street, where they retain a sliver of autonomy. The system, designed as a temporary solution, has become a permanent revolving door, a place that offers a brief respite from the elements but fails to provide a genuine path back to stability. It's not a safety net, it's a way station on the road to deeper despair. The handcuffs on a symptom. The criminalization paradox. When social and health systems fail so spectacularly, another system is forced to step in, one that is completely unequipped for the task: law enforcement. We have asked our police officers to become social workers, mental health counselors, and EMT, all without the proper training or resources. The result is a devastating paradox. Instead of treatment, we offer citations. Instead of housing, we conduct sweeps, where the few possessions a person has are thrown into a garbage truck. Ordinances against loitering, panhandling, or urban camping don't solve homelessness. They just make it illegal to be homeless. Consider the absurd theater of this approach. An officer is called to deal with a person suffering from a mental health or addiction crisis. That person is arrested, spends a night or two in jail at a tremendous cost to the taxpayer, and is then released back to the exact same street corner. Now with a criminal record, that record becomes a permanent barrier, making it nearly impossible to qualify for housing, apply for a job, or access social services. We are using the tools of punishment to address a problem born of deep-seated pain and systemic failure. When we ask police to solve a public health crisis, are we not only setting them up for failure, but also punishing the victims in the process? Every pair of handcuffs clicked shut on a homeless individual is an admission of a far greater societal failure. The echoes of a broken promise. The mental health catastrophe. Beneath the visible layers of addiction and poverty lies an often invisible wound. The catastrophic failure of America's mental health care system. This is a crisis with a long history, born from a well-intentioned promise that turned into a national tragedy. Decades ago, a movement began to deinstitutionalize mental health care. The idea was to close the large, often inhumane state-run asylums and replace them with a network of community-based treatment centers. The asylums closed, but the community centers were never fully funded or built on the scale that was needed. The result? We effectively emptied the asylums and filled the streets and prisons. Today, a staggering number of individuals experiencing homelessness are also battling serious mental illnesses like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and severe PTSD. They are caught in what's known as a dual diagnosis, struggling with both mental illness and substance abuse, where each condition makes the other worse. They are not using drugs like fentanyl out of a desire for recreation. They are self-medicating, trying to quiet the voices, numb the trauma, and survive another day in a world that offers them no real treatment. What does it say about a society when its most vulnerable minds, the ones most in need of care and compassion, have nowhere to go but the unforgiving pavement? This is the echo of a promise broken, and its reverberations are felt on every city block. Priced out of existence, the gentrification machine. But while this battle is being fought on the streets, another war is being waged in silence. Written in the language of real estate deals and zoning laws, it's the quiet, relentless force of gentrification. It starts subtly: a new coffee shop, a boutique art gallery, a renovated apartment building. On the surface, it's called urban renewal. It looks like progress, but for the long-term residents of these working-class neighborhoods, it's a slow-motion eviction notice. As property values climb, so does the rent. That corner store the family has run for 30 years is replaced by a high-end yoga studio. The affordable 3-story walk-up is gutted and turned into luxury condos that cost $4,000 a month. This isn't an eviction carried out by a sheriff with a court order. It's an economic eviction, carried out by market forces. There are no cameras. No protests. Families who have lived in a community for generations are simply priced out. They vanish from the neighborhood they helped build, pushed to the margins of the city, or worse, onto the very streets we've been discussing. It's the quiet violence of displacement. Think about your own city. How many neighborhoods have you seen transformed? And have you ever stopped to wonder where all the people who used to live there went? America's youngest casualties. The inherited crisis. Perhaps the greatest cost of this crisis isn't measured in dollars or statistics, but in stolen futures. There are over 1 million public school students in the United States who are currently experiencing homelessness. 1 million. Let that number sink in. These are children trying to do homework in a car. They are teenagers trying to study for exams in a crowded shelter, surrounded by trauma and chaos. They are kids whose only playground is a concrete alleyway. Homelessness is what the experts call an adverse childhood experience, or ACE, a form of profound trauma that can alter the very architecture of a developing brain. It affects their ability to learn, to trust, to form healthy relationships. We often talk about the American dream. But what does a child dream about when their bedroom is the backseat of a car? What future can they imagine when their present is a constant struggle for survival? This isn't just a tragedy for today, it's the active creation of a cycle of poverty and trauma for tomorrow. We are not just failing a generation of children, we are actively programming them for a future of struggle. We are witnessing the inheritance of a crisis, passed down to those with the least power to refuse it. The cost of doing nothing, an economic reality check. There is a pervasive myth in our society that tackling homelessness is simply too expensive. The argument is that we can't afford the massive investment in housing, healthcare, and support services. But this argument is based on a profound misunderstanding of the truth. The reality is, doing nothing is vastly more expensive. Think of it as a fiscal black hole. Every person living on the streets represents a constant drain on public resources. The costs accumulate through repeated emergency room visits, which are the most expensive form of healthcare. They come from constant police interactions, court appearances, and short-term jail stays. They come from emergency sanitation sweeps and public health interventions. It is a scattered, inefficient, and incredibly costly way of managing a crisis instead of solving it. Study after study has confirmed this. The economic data is clear. Providing an individual with permanent supportive housing, a stable home, and access to services is significantly cheaper for the taxpayer than leaving them on the street. We are already spending the money, we are just spending it on the consequences, not on the solution. So the question isn't whether we can afford to solve homelessness. The question is, how much longer can we afford not to? Searching for solutions, models for a way forward. The deepest tragedy of this entire crisis is that it is solvable. The blueprints for success already exist. We are not lost in the dark without a map. We are standing in a well-lit room, refusing to walk through the open doors. Look at a city like Houston, Texas. By aggressively implementing a strategy known as Housing First, which provides housing without preconditions like sobriety, they have managed to dramatically reduce their homeless population over the past decade. It's a model centered on a simple, powerful idea. It is impossible for a person to rebuild their life without the basic foundation of a stable home. Look at the principle of harm reduction. Instead of demanding perfect abstinence, it meets people where they are. Programs that distribute the overdose reversal drug naloxone provide clean needles and offer safe consumption sites don't enable drug use, they enable survival. They keep people alive long enough to have a chance at recovery. The solutions are not a mystery. They are based on data, evidence, and compassion. The problem is not a lack of know-how, It is a lack of political and social will. We have the tools to end this. Then, do we hesitate? Number 10. Beyond survival. The currency of human dignity. After all the analysis of systems, policies, and budgets, we arrive at the human core of the matter. You can provide a roof, a bed, and a meal, but if you withhold one essential element, the entire structure will collapse. Dignity. On the streets, a person is rendered invisible. They are stepped over, ignored, and dehumanized. They become a problem to be managed, a statistic to be counted. The greatest poverty is not the absence of money, but the absence of being seen. This is where the true heroes of this story emerge. The outreach workers, the volunteers, the everyday citizens who refuse to look away. They are the ones who learn a person's name. They ask about their day. They offer a conversation without judgment. They operate with the only currency that truly matters in a world of absolute desperation: human connection. Before you were a homeowner or a renter, before you had a job title or a degree, what were you? You were a person deserving of respect. That is the fundamental truth this crisis has forced us to forget. The ultimate solution is not found in a government program, but in the radical act of seeing the human being in front of us and recognizing their inherent worth. We began this journey with the question, why can't the homeless escape the grip of fentanyl and the streets? And now, the answer is painfully clear. The trap isn't just chemical. It's economic. It's medical. It's political. It's the soaring cost of rent, a mental health care system in ruins, and a justice system that punishes poverty. Fentanyl isn't the cause of this fire. It's the gasoline poured onto the embers of decades of systemic neglect. It's not a single failure. It's a total systemic collapse. But behind every statistic, there is a story. Behind every face, there is a name, a history, a dream that was once held. The path off the streets is not just paved with policy and funding. Its foundation must be built with empathy and the restoration of dignity. If this documentary has given you a new perspective, we ask you to help us break the silence. Comment below, let us know your thoughts. Start a conversation about what's happening in your own community. Share this video. The first step to solving a problem is making it impossible to ignore. And please, subscribe to Bear City 24. Because there are countless more stories in the shadows that need to be brought into the light. Every interaction you make helps us continue this journey. Our mission is to look where others look away. Because we believe that to change the world, you first have to be willing to truly see it. Thank you for watching.